Thank you, Professor Patwardhan. Very good afternoon to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce my colleague, Professor Rama Paul, who is an associate professor in the Department of Economics. She has been with the IIT Bombay since 2012. Her primary research area is development economics with a focus on inclusive development. Currently, she is working on regional disparity in learning, child health, migration, human capital formation, and intergenerational mobility. She is also part of the National Disease Modeling Consortium, NDMC, anchored by IIT Bombay, and currently leads the Vaccine Preventable Diseases group of NDMC. In fact, she has several publications in the area of health economics and labor, and we thought she'll be the. We are very happy that she agreed to deliver this Nobel lecture today. Welcome, Rama. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Narayanan, for your kind introduction. Today I am going to briefly talk about Professor Goldin's work related to women's labor market outcomes, okay, that led to Nobel Prize for her, right? So she is currently Henry Lee Professor of Economics at Harvard University, and this year she has received the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences for having advanced our understanding of women's labor market outcomes. Her main research area is economic history and labor economics. So the major contributions of Professor Goldin are in this area. So first is related to U-shaped women labor force participation. And secondly, she also talked about effect of birth control pills on women education and employment. And lastly, her work also includes women labor force participation from the perspective of family's life cycle. Okay, so we will look at all these three. Okay, in brief detail. So first, in our seminal work related to U-shaped women labor force function, it basically talks about how women labor force participation is related to economic development. So earlier expectation regarding this relationship was that the relationship is linear upward sloping, meaning that as there is economic development, as economy progresses, then the labor force participation of women goes up. Okay, but Goldin in her 1994-95 work, she explains using the data for US over time as well as across countries in cross-section data. She has explained that this relationship is actually not linear relationship, but it is a kind of U-shaped relationship. That's what she has plotted here. Okay, so this is from her paper. So this shows basically the relationship between GDP and the labor force participation by women in the age group of 45 to 59, right? So she was concentrating on married women, and she showed that when the development is low, the per capita income is low for the country. So this is cross-country data. And when the per capita income is lower in the countries, then the labor force participation by women at the beginning is very high. Then it reduces, and then it again increases as the income becomes even larger. Okay, so then that is what she has seen for cross country, okay, data, as well as for US data, which is a time series data. So across time period, she has seen that initially when the income is low, that time the labor force participation was high in US. Then as gradually there is increase in income, per capita income, the labor force participation went down, and then again it rose as income became even larger. Okay, so then what is the explanation? She also provides obviously the explanation for this phenomenon. Okay, so the explanation is like this. So initially when the income is very low, that time the women are participating in domestic manufacturing jobs. For example, like dairy or poultry or basic agriculture. So they are participating in basic work in this home-based production. All right, and this is mainly manual work. Okay, as economy grows, there is manufacturing sector. The role of manufacturing sector goes up, right? And there is also new technology in the economy, and because of this, then income increases. Okay, and there is less need for women participation in the work over here, right? Because now people can get employment in the manufacturing sector where the incomes are more, and as the income goes up, there is less need to work outside, right? And then why women drop out of the labor force? Why not men, right? Because it is also associated with the social stigma that is attached to women working outside, particularly married women working outside. That's why she is concentrating on older adult women, okay, who are basically married, right? And because of this social stigma, women do not go out of the home and work in factories, say in manufacturing sector. When the production was home based, that time they were working, but now as the manufacturing sector grows, they are not working, they are dropping out of the labor market, fine. As well as there is less need also because the income, per capita income, is growing. Okay, so this is your income effect, fine. Then what happens? So this tells you that why the labor participation by women goes down initially when the per capita income goes up. Then what happens? As income goes up, right? The technology is improving. There is more education simultaneously as the income increases, right? And since there is now the education is improving, since men are working outside, so their education grows at a faster rate as compared to women. But eventually, women education catches up, right? So initially, in the initial period, when there is a disparity between men's education and women's education, that time the relative productivity of women is low as compared to men, because the skills are not there, right? So the skill development happens slower for women. Okay, on the other hand, for men it is much faster. So initially, men participate in the labor market, right? And since their productivity is higher, and so they can command larger income. Okay, but as the women's education catches up with men's, there is a lower gap, a lower education gap between the two. That time, then again the opportunity cost of women staying at home increases, right? And the substitution effect happens. So also the better with better education, better technology, there is also availability of more white collar jobs, which does not have that kind of social stigma which is attached to working in a factory or blue collar jobs. Okay, so now women re-enter in the labor market, the workforce participation for women goes up, and so the upward sloping part of the U-shaped curve. Okay, so this was the explanation given by Professor Goldin in order to explain that U-shaped nature of relationship between workforce participation by women and per capita income of countries, right, or economic development. Then she also looked into, the effect of birth control pills on women education and employment. So what happened in 1960s and 1970s? During the initial period of 1960s, there was introduction of or development of birth control pills in US, right? And because of this, there is now new method available. Okay, the women are able to postpone the childbirth, and because that is the major hindrance many a times to enter the labor force for women, right? Since you can postpone childbirth, so there is that hindrance is not there, and you can easily enter um, uh, the the different professions which require longer time period, okay, or longer time investment. right? So that is what is observed when in this paper. What they are looking at is the how the birth control pills change, or whether after that introduction of the birth control pills, whether there is any change in the courses opted by women in US or not, right? And they found that there is a sudden increase in the women enrollment or female enrollment in the courses which require larger time investment, such as medical or law. All right. So this was the effect observed. Similarly, in case of occupational segregation also, since now there is greater enrollment in these courses, obviously they were also entering in these professions at a larger scale. So occupational segregation was not there, right? It reduced over time after the introduction of the birth control pills, right? And these are typically the occupations which give higher returns, okay, or the earnings or wages are higher in these occupations, professional ones, right? So as women enter more into these occupations, then the wage gap between two gender also went down, right? So this they estimated this as the effect of introduction of the birth control pills. Then in this work on labor force participation by women, how it changes over the life cycle of family, they are talking about, the effect of childbirth, uh, how it is affecting the labor force participation and earnings gap over the entire lifespan. Okay, not just at the entry level, but also at later stage, in 40s and 50s, right? And what they find is that though the earning gaps goes down, okay, or though the difference between or though the participation by women goes up eventually, right? But still the gap is observed even at a later stage. Okay, so they attributed this gap to three different factors. One is penalty of being mother, right? Second is gender bias, and the third is fatherhood premium. Okay, so what are these things? The first one is essentially the difference between the earnings to mothers vis-a-vis those who are not mothers without any children. Fine. So the earnings gap was observed between mothers and non-mothers, right? And so that is basically the penalty of motherhood, because you have to invest time in children, right? And that is lowering your wages or earnings capacity, or maybe you are not participating in the labor force or only working as a part-time, right? So that is the penalty of being mother. Okay. The second one, they also observed that there is a gender bias, right? So there is a difference between overall earnings for all men versus earnings for all women, okay, considering both father and mother to mother and non-mother and father and non-father together, okay, all men versus all women. Fine. But that gender gap was huge. Okay, so they thought that maybe there is some other factor that is also playing role. And then when they compared fathers versus non-fathers, they found that there is also a fatherhood premium, right? And now why this fatherhood premium might be there? So there can be many reasons. Okay, so what is the meaning of fatherhood premium? It is essentially fathers are earning higher on average as compared to non-fathers, right? So this can be because of many reasons, and since you have children, so you work hard so that your higher income can support your children. Okay, or there can be inherent bias from the employer's point of view. Okay, so they are not exploring the reason in this particular paper. What they are saying is that there exists a fatherhood premium. Okay, so all these three factors contribute to the gender earnings gap. Now, this is main, summary of Professor Goldin's work related to women's labor force participation and how it changes over lifespan, right, or life cycle of the family. Okay, how this is relevant for today what we are observing in India, right? This is quite relevant. Okay, so currently we are having female labor force participation which is very low in case of India. Okay, only 37% women actually participate in labor force as opposed to around 77% for men, right? So it's quite low. Okay. Secondly, this is very disturbing since there is education disparity is actually reducing. Okay, so the result that she observed in case of US, that as education disparity goes down, women actually participate more in labor force, right? Okay, which is, we are yet to observe that we are still on the downward sloping part of the U-shaped curve, right? And also we observe huge gender disparity in unpaid work. Okay, so women are, what is unpaid work? Unpaid work is basically women are engaged in domestic or care duties, right, at home, which is not paid, right? So since there is, this burden is particularly on women, so that disparity can also lead to lower labor force participation by women. Okay, so all these factors are might be this factor might be contributing to lower female LFP, right? So in order to increase LFP now, if in her paper, Professor Goldin also talks about, you know, how there can be differences across countries, how this increase in female LFP process may occur. Okay, so in case of US, there was increase high white collar increased level of white collar jobs, right, which led to increased employment for women. Okay, but which may not be the case in other countries, because the situation changes over time, right? This, in case of US, it happened quite early, right? In our case, right now we are witnessing the downward sloping part of the U-shaped curve. Okay, so formal sectors jobs are very low in number right now, compared to the workforce that we have, right? And also you know, so there has to be some additional avenues available for employment, such as, you know, family based startups, right? Since now we are looking at there are multiple e-marketing opportunities available, right? This can be a very good avenue to increase employment among women. We are actually observing a lot of home-based activities or businesses run by women, right? So promotion of such type of startups can actually improve the employment and labor force participation in India as well. Okay, so yeah, thank you. So any questions if you have?